We're back on CFRA's Outdoor Experience at 11:17 in a moment.
CFRA's Outdoor Experience returns. The number to call, 521-TALK. That's 521-8255. Email outdoorexperience@cfra.com.
11:21, Dean Roberts with Kevin Pidgeon from Tommy and LaFave. Guest number one, KP?
Well, we have the man, the myth, the legend. Fresh from Southern Ontario. He was down there on some business and made a stop to visit his daughter on the way back at camp. The one, the only, Lauren Goldenberg. How are you doing this morning, Lauren?
Morning, guys. How's your Sunday morning going?
Fantastic.
Yeah, don't go on the Queensway, Lauren, whatever you do. Westbound. Or sorry, eastbound.
I will stay away from the Queensway. I'm lucky. I live in Westboro, and when I have to travel west, I'm going against the traffic out to the Scotiabank Place, and when I have to go downtown, it's usually later in the day, so I'm kind of the opposite way of traffic. So I try to live my lifestyle by avoiding traffic.
Well, it makes for a much more comfortable lifestyle, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it keeps the road rage away from me.
I got to tell you, you have had a tremendous, it's great to have you on, by the way. I know your schedule is pretty chaotic. You've been traveling out west and down into the U.S. as well as overseas a couple times. You're the man on the go, but thanks for taking the time out to come on with us. And you've had a tremendous effect, even in your absence, on the Pidgeon household this summer.
Well, I'll tell you, the Pidgeon household, if I was a great marketer, I'd have the both Pidgeon boys, that being you, Kevin, and your son Art, on my on the front page of my website, because you guys have had probably had better gains than any of my professional athletes all summer, without a doubt.
Hear that, Dino? I can make a comeback.
The broccoli was worth it, wasn't it?
The broccoli was well worth it. But, you know, Lauren, it's funny that you say that, and it's an interesting thing, obviously, not being a professional athlete, that I pick up on right away, because, as you know, the business that we're in, Natalie and I and the Tommy and LaFave family do a ton of marketing of our products and our services. But I know that you guys, you know, one of the things that people have not really had an appreciation for is the level of professionalism with which you execute the profession that you're in. And that, you know, speaks volumes to the way that you conduct yourself in the market. You know, there are many, many athletes, and I won't name names, as I know you don't name names, but Arthur comes home and he says, "Oh, Dad, I worked out with, you know, this hockey player, this football player, this golfer, whomever, ski racer, national team athlete," you know, through the course of the summer and winter, of course. And you know, that's something that speaks volumes to the way in which you conduct yourself. And I oftentimes will remind people that it's much like a doctor. You know, although I have a friend who's treated Shaquille O'Neal, he would never tell anybody that he's treated him for a slight injury. And although you guys aren't practicing medicine, writing prescriptions and doing surgery, you are doing something very, very personal. Maybe you can speak a little bit to the ethics and the codes that you try to live up to in that area.
Well, well. First of all, thank you very much for mentioning that. I really appreciate it. The whole industry, the fitness industry, that and the codes and ethics that I try and live up to are just, you know, really based on my education at the University of Ottawa in phys ed and kin. And you know, you go through 4 years of university and, you know, certification programs and professional development to learn about the body and to understand, you know, how it adapts to exercise, because at the end of the day, although we're not doctors, exercise is like medicine. Like when I ask you to do something on a treadmill or with a dumbbell or some kind of piece of exercise equipment, it's causing a stress to your body, and your body reacts. Some people react in a positive way, some people react in a negative way. And unfortunately, the fitness industry is totally unregulated, and nobody really knows what fitness expert number 1 is doing, fitness expert number 2, fitness expert number 3. So I kind of follow a philosophy of what I learned in school, what I've learned from, you know, trial and error also, but through a lot of research. At the end of the day, I know that because of the way the body adapts, there are certain progressions that they have to go through. And unfortunately, there's no quick fix. People are always looking for the quick fix. And I was sitting with a woman, an early 40s woman, yesterday at lunch up at the camp where my daughter's at. We were talking about fitness, and she told me about this circuit training program that she does. She goes, "You know, I just love it. I walk in there, and my weights are set up, the BOSUs, the balls, like everything's done. I don't have to think, and I'm done in 45 minutes." And I thought, okay. I said, she's doing it with 6 friends. I said, "How's your back?" And she goes, "You know, it's funny you mention that, because my back is always sore, always sore. And the problem with it is that these 95% of the people who participate in circuit training programs or boot camps, if I was to assess them, I would not recommend that they do that type of program because their ankles or knees or backs or shoulders are not at a level that would allow them to do that type of exercise. Fast, explosive movements. I mean, I don't let my professional hockey players do that type of movement until they've done at least 8 weeks of significant strength training. So how could an early 40s housewife step in and do that type of workout? So at the end of the day, you know, if I was a really great marketer and I could get in as many people as I can and charge them the most money that I can, I'd be making a lot of money. But I like to consider myself honorable and a little more educated, and I like to go through a process that I know at the end will benefit the human body.
Well, you know, it's interesting that you say that because having lived in sports all my life, working in the industry, and having had the opportunity to, you know, be blessed with playing many golf courses, going to many ski hills and so on and so forth, hockey, football, and everything else, I thought I knew what I was doing. Clearly, I didn't. If you looked at me about 12 weeks ago, but you know, going out or going downstairs, running on the treadmill, or outside 3 times a week, 5K, and thinking that was going to keep me in shape, which clearly it didn't, was my philosophy. And what was really interesting to me, Lauren, was the way that you completely changed that. And in point of fact, said, I don't want you running anymore. I want you walking on the treadmill, and we're going to add some inclinations to the walk. And there were a couple of other things that you suggested to me. And I'm also going to cover off on, we're coming up on the break here, but I'm also going to cover off on the, maybe in the next section, in the next segment, we can talk a little bit about how the food and meal plan can affect that exercise regime. But, you know, I tell you, sometimes that old adage, less is more, is oh so true. And when you don't know what you're doing, or you don't know, or you're not getting the right information, as, you know, it was with me, I was kind of self-educating, which I didn't have the ability to do. I thought that was going to save me. I could get 3 quick runs in a week. I'd be, I'd stay in decent shape, which clearly didn't happen over the years. And by changing that to a walk with some inclines introduced, surely at a higher pace, but it afforded me the opportunity to, along with a meal plan, really change the way, and you explained to me why that was with regard to the optimization of fat burning with heart rate levels and so on and so forth. But this is something that people completely have no understanding of. And as a result, they go out and they injure themselves. Oh, I'm going to go for a run, or I'm going to go on a bike ride, or I'm going to go and do this. And I can tell you for a fact, in our industry, we see it all the time. You know, stuff like golf. Go out, don't stretch, don't warm up, and the guy's trying to hammer the ball 400 miles or whatever the case may be. And that's not even a strenuous sport. And yet people constantly injure themselves, be it arms, shoulders, legs, wrists, elbows, and backs in the sport of golf.
Imagine a golfer going out and they shoot an 85, and they're shooting left. So we know that's 85 rotations to one side. What about the other side?
Well, you can see how these guys, and Tiger Woods is probably a great example when we look at his left knee, right? Yeah. We can see how these guys truly damage their body by the repetition of a violent motion.
Well, it's funny, you mentioned his name, but an athlete's injuring themselves, I don't know Mike Fisher personally, but I've talked to Senator strength coaches in the past, and, Mike's unfortunately gone through a lot of injuries through his career, and, everybody was trying to put a nail on the head where it might have been coming from, and it kind of leans back to possibly his training, because his training provides a foundation for him to be able to be healthy, and, through the conversation, we know he wasn't really involved in the Senator strength program. Whatever he's doing on his own probably wasn't the right thing for him, and unfortunately he's suffering through some significant injuries with it.
Lauren, we're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about meal planning and how people can get ready for the winter season.
Sounds great.
Lauren Goldenberg, our guest from the ACC.
Yeah, we're going to...
that's not the Air Canada Center.
No, that's the Athletic Conditioning Center, Dino. But you're close. You're only about 300 miles east.
And we're back with more with Lauren and the Outdoor Experience after the 11:30 news, next on 580 CFRA.
Now back to CFRA's Outdoor Experience.
Dean Roberts with KP from TNL. It's 11:34. Lauren Goldenberg, I'm sitting here thinking, with somebody like you back in the 60s and 70s, how good could a Bobby Orr have been? How much better could a Bobby Orr have been, or a Bart Starr in football? with all the knowledge that you have and the training techniques?
Well, I'm not sure. You know, it's funny. I've met Bobby Orr because the Orr Group sends us a number of clients over the last number of years, and I got to meet him in 2008 at the draft and here in Ottawa, and we talked about that. And I'm not sure I could have helped Bobby Orr be a better player. I mean, he, in my mind, is the greatest player that ever played, even better than Wayne Gretzky. But what I think I could have done was helped him with his rehab and his progressive training after he had all those knee injuries, because you know, the medicine was different, the fitness was certainly different back then, and potentially could have extended his career and would have seen him into the late 80s instead of the early 80s when he retired.
You know, Lauren, there's so many intricacies to what you do, and I've, you know, just standing on the sidelines watching, you know, first with Brendan, whom you did a great job preparing my older guy to play his football career in Catha and at Ashbury, and then prepared him ultimately to go on and play at McGill, where he was, you know, he went to camp stronger than any other rookie they had in the camp that year and set some records and so on and so forth. But also watching, you know, that, and which is a great thing, by the way, that you can get them ready in that regard and get them faster, stronger, more fit. But also, I've watched kids that Brendan worked out with who didn't have the privilege of being exposed to that kind of elite training, and they've not only sustained injuries, but they never really realize their full potential because they never really get strong enough. And I've had kids that I coach go down to the NCAA, call me back, hey coach, you know what, I'm depressed. I'm like, and this is lineman, I'm working out with this receiver or the kickers or whatever to start their career because maybe they didn't get the training in the weight room and on the track that they needed. That being said, there's so much more to it because to be able to identify you know, from a kinesiology background, some minor injuries or, you know, afflictions that may take place in the routine of training is another pretty implicit skill in that area, right?
Absolutely. And just looking at the body and how the body moves under load, under change of direction, all has an impact on how the body reacts to the exercise and how it adapts to the exercise. So you either get stronger and better, or you get injured and you get worse. And unfortunately, there's what people have a tough time understanding is there's no shortcuts. There's a process that young kids and professional athletes need to go through. And you know what? For that matter, adults who are looking to getting into fitness, you know, that there are no shortcuts, and taking the right time and understanding that there's a process that the body has to go through, it will definitely lead to success.
And you know, that success is really threefold. First, of course, being the commitment to do everything you have to do. Second, being the actual physical work to which there are no shortcuts and you must do. But third, and equally as important as the first two, and depends a lot on the first one, is, of course, the meal plan that needs to be devised. And that needs to be devised under a very, supervisory laden role, because you can't just go throwing a couple foods together or reading a book on calories and saying, oh, yeah, we'll eat these 6 things because they have no calories. This is the carbs you need, blah, blah, blah. There are actually, I was quite surprised to see some of the foods on the meal plan and how frankly, you're never hungry if you're on the right meal plan, right?
Well, exactly, because it's really all about managing your blood glucose levels, because when your blood glucose levels, which is your blood sugar levels, you know, get down, if you let them get down because you haven't had a meal in over 3.5 hours, then you get that famished feeling, that feeling like I can't put the food in my mouth fast enough. And that's when we get into the habits of overeating. That's where you see people having like 3 gigantic meals instead of, say, 6 smaller meals throughout the day, and managing their blood glucose levels. So that does 2 things. It manages your sugar levels, but it also keeps your macronutrients at a constant level throughout the day. And it's I kind of liken it to an IndyCar race. IndyCar, you've got this high-profile car. You got all these technicians working on the car. It's the fastest car on the track, and then you go and put gasoline in it from Canadian Tire. Like, you're just not going to win the race. You need, the body is a highly tuned engine, and you need to put like high-octane fuel into that body. And if you're spending your time at the lineup at McDonald's, it's really not going to happen.
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, listen, I having had the experience that I've had over the last 8 weeks, I can tell you 100% two things, and that is that it's not a terrible thing to go out and have some kind of a treat once in a while. If you want to go out and have a little bit of ice cream, Dean Roberts lips me in the studio, but at the same time, you can be pretty satisfied, pounding back some blackberries and blueberries, strawberries, the right fruits in the morning and mid-morning, and then having a nice piece of fish or lean chicken or something of that nature at lunch. And one of the things that I rediscovered was my passion for seafood, in that, there's a lot of things like I've had trout. I haven't eaten trout in years, but I tell you what, I don't miss it every Monday now. I love it. So, it's pretty neat. It really, it opens your eyes to a variety. And I can speak because he's my son, and I know you won't talk about Arthur's meal planning, but I can tell you Arthur, who was probably one of the most specific and fussy eaters ever, now eats things that, a couple of months ago wouldn't have dreamed of eating.
Yeah, but the one thing with Arthur, though, like, he was motivated in two ways. Like, one, we started with him, I told him I was disappointed with his body composition. And if he didn't get it going, I wasn't going to let him train at the ACC anymore.
Yeah, that was pretty motivational.
So, but you know what? He took right to it, and it takes a pretty mature kid to be able to focus and stick to something like that. Because when his buddies are going out to pizza, he's not partaking in that. And he knew from a physical standpoint he wants to play high level rugby. He wants to play high level football. Well, he's got to be committed to the program. And for a kid, I will say this on the air. For a kid like Arthur, a 15-year-old kid who's upwards of losing 50 pounds and really transforming his body, it's a credit to him, his determination, and his father for supporting him by doing the program at the same time.
Well, thank you, Lauren, but I'm going to tell you something. One of the things that I learned from this exercise from a coaching perspective, which I've been doing since I stopped playing competitive baseball and hockey and every other sport for that matter, is I learned very clearly that you had one quality that a lot of coaches lack in many instances, and that was to understand what motivates somebody and to push the right buttons. Because some kids might not have responded the same way, but you knew he was a kid that could respond in that way and would rise to the challenge. So, it's yet another ingredient in having a successful training regiment and a great reputation in that industry.
And you know what? It helped when I told him that we wanted him to become the first successul quarterback with the name Art.
Well, you keep calling him Art Schleister.
Well, Art Schleister wasn't exactly successful after Ohio State, right? For various reasons.
Well, and it's funny how things happen, because he's in an environment right now where he's had the benefit of being exposed to the Ashbury program, which is a great football program, and he's out with John Stephen in Nepean now, playing for the Redskins, who, of course, he sees who John's worked with in the past, being Josh Sakobi, as well as, of course, Brad Sinopoli, two of the foremost Canadian CIS quarterbacks. So, there's some motivation involved there, and kids do rise to the occasion, and for that, Lauren, I'm grateful. You've done a wonderful job with them. Now, how do people get a hold of you if they want to maybe be exposed to? Hey, listen, the ACC's not for everybody, and that's very clear. But I know for a fact, because I've talked to a couple of people whom you've done this for, you will put together a home program under supervision, and you will also help them devise a meal plan. How do people get in touch with you? How do they get involved in the ACC's programs?
Well, the best way is through our website at accottawa.com, and through that also, if you scroll down towards the bottom of our homepage, there's a fitness blog where I kind of share my thoughts and experiences from the sporting world and fitness world with readers, and we try and keep that as updated as possible, and it gives people an opportunity to see what is really going on in the world of fitness and sports conditioning.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on with us, and because you seldom blow your own horn or even talk about all of the accomplishments that you've had, I think we're real blessed to have you here in the community, and it's a real neat facility and a real neat environment that you've created out there at Scotiabank Place.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the comments.
Well, Lauren, I want you to transform me into KP. Can you do that?
We're there. We can get you there, Gino.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Lauren.
All right, guys.
Real good to hear from you.
Have a great week.
Take care, you too.
Lauren Goldenberg.